This is a Hot Pie Media original.
Wow. That's where to place, if we even know yet, where to place the most blame for what happened at the Travis Scott concert over the weekend in Houston. Or where to place any blame. There's so many levels that we don't know about other than the fact that this has got to be the worst way to die. Okay? That's got to be the worst way to die. To get crushed by the crowd. 8 people are dead, including 2 teenagers, the youngest of which is 14. Most people now know most of the story, and the finger pointing is starting. And do you really know where to point fingers, or maybe where the finger should be pointed the most? Because there's multiple levels here. And then you have to ask yourself, does live music change at all? I don't know if there's enough fault yet to know if there's a change in live music. So Travis Scott, of course, over the weekend, he's from Houston, he's playing at a music festival. There's a good description. I'll play it for you in just a minute of what this thing was like. And he played on even while people were screaming to stop. He claims he didn't know at the time that people were being crushed. I think there's probably some truth to that. The lawsuits have started, though. And then it makes you step back and ask, I don't know, does live music as you know it, do these festivals as you know them, do they change? Some people are kind of blaming the crowd, not just blaming the crowd, saying, look, this wasn't a classic example of the promoter being completely at fault, although there might be some fault there. Either way, the lawsuits have started. It didn't take long. And honestly, you can't blame them. Okay? You can't blame them. It's reported now the chief of police in Houston met with him before over crowd concerns. Was that a specific concern that he had, or is that just kind of a general practice? We don't know that yet either. We don't know exactly. Everybody wants desperately to find some blame. There may be a lot. And some of it may be the crowd. There's a history of live shows, of course, that have gone horribly wrong. We all know that. I don't know of any to this level other than the Who concert, which was that in the 80s? I want to say in Cincinnati or somewhere like that. That's when, remember, they opened it up for general admission and people just went crazy and started crushing each other. And, the rest is history. But I can't think of another event that went this badly. I mean, it's tragic and it's weird. And the weird part is, people getting stuck with needles. Don't know what to make of that. There's going to be so many levels to this, so many levels of blame. All of it may be fair. Some of it may be unfair. I don't think it's going to be as simple as we want it. And I don't know that it's quite fair to say that he's all at fault. I mean, he's not the one that puts on the show. It is his concert. It is his hometown. It is his festival. But somebody else runs the show. And I don't know how politically correct it's going to be for the music promoter to say, look, we did everything we'd always do. The people went crazy. Reuters, early this morning, at least 2 investigations and 1 civil lawsuit are underway into the deadly stampede during rap star Travis Scott's Astroworld music festival that killed at least 8 people. 2 of the victims were teenagers, ages 14 and 16, in the crushing surge of the crowd as Scott continued to perform. Completing his set, and there's a cut of the crowd saying stop, but I don't know. It looks bad. It sounds bad. I don't know how fair it is. Completing his set even after noticing fans were receiving medical treatment. He says he was unaware of the severity of the situation. I'd kind of like to believe the guy. There's no upside to doing that. Houston Police Chief Troy Finner said his department had opened a criminal investigation by homicide and narcotics detectives following reports that somebody in the audience had been injecting people with drugs. I know the early stories where that's what, there's enough to it that they're investigating it. A security guard, if you don't know this story, this is just weird. A security guard says that he felt a prick on his neck. He passed out. He received Narcan. Narcan is Narcan, is a drug used to treat opioid overdoses. Several other people were treated with Narcan, according to the city's fire chief. So, I know. Are there drugs at concerts? Yep. Are there drugs at his concerts? Yep. Were they the cause of this? How are we going to know? Don't know. Either way, it's not just an investigation. It's a homicide investigation, and it is a narcotics investigation, and the lawsuits have started, and they're going to win. There's no way anyone involved is going to let this stuff stay in the news. The first lawsuits have been filed, including one that blames rappers Travis Scott and Drake, as well as the concert company Live Nation, for the stampede. These had been filed already yesterday. And if you're on the other side of this, you're really going to fight it? Really? You want this in the news? The lawsuits names NRG Stadium, agent Harris County Sports and Convention Corp., accusing the defendants of prioritizing, quote, profits over their attendees during a concert in which a surging crowd killed concert goers ranging in age from 14 to 27. John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce, now in all 50 states and several retail outlets as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to let this social media rock star chef walk us through 4 different sauces, and then I'll taste, and we'll tell everyone why they should buy. You can give the science behind these, and then I'll make the simple recommendation. Go to atxhotsauce.com. All right,
I don't think anybody's heard the website.
Yeah, I know.
About you, Jeff, but it is atxhotsauce.com.
I'll say
I got that one right.
45 times, atxhotsauce.com. So let's do it.
I brought 4 flavors here, and we're going to test your palate today. Okay. And I only brought 4 because I didn't think you could handle 5 or 6.
Yes,
probably a smart move. Yeah. And so the first one we're going to try here is called Beet Heat. And just like the name implies, it has beets in it. It's made with red Fresno peppers. Red Fresnos are red peppers that are they're hotter than a jalapeno and a little bit less than a serrano. So not super hot here, just a lot of really good flavor. So we're going to start with this one, and then we're going to move up the chain.
Okay. I've had the Beet Heat, but okay.
Yeah, we're going to try it though.
It goes well with a cab. All right, Jeff's savoring Beet Heat.
I'll even do it with you, so that should be all right. Now remember, it is hot sauce.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's hot sauce. Trust me, man.
Wait, is that one hot to you?
No. A little.
Yeah. The great thing with the fermentation process is you get a bunch of the flavor right up front.
Yeah.
And then the heat comes, but then it dissipates pretty quickly, especially with the red Fresnos. You know, this is not a very spicy one, but it is a very tasty one. Goes on great on sandwiches.
Beet Heat.
Beet Heat. BEET. Heat.
All right. Go to atxhotsauce.com.
That's right.
Here you go. The attorney representing concert-going Christian Paredes. Statement from lawyer Thomas J. Henry. Live musical performances are meant to inspire catharsis, not tragedy. Many of these concert goers were looking forward to this event for months, and they deserved a safe environment in which to have fun and enjoy the evening. Instead, their night was one of fear, injury, and death. There you go. And no one in their right mind thinks that gets battled very long. Don't know that you can blame them. I mean, you show up at a concert, you probably shouldn't get crushed. It's the worst way to die. This is interesting. This is the music critic for the Houston Chronicle. Now, he says pretty much what you're hearing already. Nobody knows exactly where the blame is. There's a lot to go around. He hints at, I took this, you can take it another way. He seems to be hinting at it's a bunch of young dudes. It's a bunch of young dudes that get worked up. That's what they do with these shows. This is nothing new. Let's don't act like old people and act like, oh, going crazy to concerts new. He implies, listen, you got to appreciate the crowd of young dudes that get pretty worked up at these events. So it's not all that surprising that something went horribly wrong.
For more on what happened and the ongoing investigation, I spoke with Houston Chronicle music critic and reporter Joey Guerra, who was at the Astroworld concert on Friday. Joey, you've been writing and reporting about this all weekend. I think we are a little now aware of what happened, but I think the question everyone has is, how did this happen? You were there.
I think that's the big question. I mean, there are so many questions, I think, surrounding this. There have been rumors that there were drugs involved. Obviously, I think the initial speculation was that people were just trampled because there was so much of a crowd. But it's just, I think there are so many questions still. Obviously, I think there were some issues with crowding and people pushing and surges and things like that. But I think there's might be more to this than just that.
Give us a sense of what the space is like, where all these people were.
Well, the space where this is at is kind of adjacent to the big stadium here in town. So it's a huge kind of area with parking lots and grass. They had 2 stages set up that were very well spaced. There was lots of space in between carnival, midway games, things like that. The area in front of this stage, has a lot of grass, a lot of concrete. I know people hear these numbers and think, how did they not know this was going to happen? But I think anybody who's been to a festival knows, they kind of know the area. They prepare for something like this. I mean, yes, there were a lot of people in the front where Travis was performing, but if you were out of that immediate area, there were lots of people walking around. People were in line getting food. I mean, there was lots of action still happening right behind. I mean, it wasn't like every single person there was packed in. So
tell us a little bit about what is the average Travis Scott concert like for someone who hasn't attended? I mean, in your reporting, you describe a kind of energy there. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important to understand, is that if you've never been to a Travis Scott show, I mean, the energy kind of exchange between him and the crowd it's like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, I think the closest comparison is maybe like a boy band concert. When you have people crying and kind of uncontrollable, that's kind of the energy here. I mean, he calls his fans ragers, and, there are mosh pits. And it's interesting because I think the average Travis Scott fan is probably a male from 16 to 21 years old, which we saw at this concert. I mean, it's lots of males, so there's lots of kind of pent up energy, and, it can kind of spill into aggression at some point.
You've been watching closely a lot of the videos that have come out of the event itself. What were you able to learn from some of the videos that fans were sharing around the moments that it was happening?
I think for me, honestly, and probably a lot of people that weren't in that mix, it was just really shocking to see what was happening. I mean, I was, outside on the ground, but I was further back. So me and everyone around me had no clue what was going on. Of course, we saw emergency vehicles coming in and things like that. We knew he stopped the show, but it felt like kind of normal festival happenings. Things happen and people get sick or need help. So it wasn't until after, when you're leaving and you're checking social media, you see these videos of people performing CPR, being carted away unconscious, people like just clamoring to get out. It was just honestly really shocking if you weren't in there to really understand that all this was going on.
Joey Guerra of the Houston Chronicle.
It's a pretty interesting perspective. Question. So now they talk about a homicide investigation. Again, people are going to pick apart. As he describes, it's just looks and feels like any other music festival. And then the people that really want to get up close and start jumping up and down are going to be at the front of the stage. Is the Houston police going to start to pick apart video? Is there a way, just throwing this out because we don't know exactly. I mean, we know what happened. We know people were crushed. Is there a way that they're going to blame the people at the front, the dudes at the front stepping on other people? I'm just wondering how, of course, we get to the bottom of, who's to blame. We get the civil suits. That's a whole nother trajectory by itself, and they're going to win. They're going to get paid, and this thing is, the concert promoter wants to go away. He wants it to go away. We get the civil part of this. The criminal part of what they're inviting here is pretty interesting. There's no way you can make a criminal case against the performer. The criminal case is going to have to come from either somebody that was negligent And the description this reporter who was there gave is like any other festival. It's the people at the front that are stepping on each other. That's the question I have. Is the criminal case about the people at the front? Are you going to go and start picking them out and saying, you were the one shoving, you were the ones pushing, you were the one stepping on those dudes? And there are defenses going to be, I didn't know he was dying. This is what we do at a show. Isn't that where the criminal case has to go? Is taking a look at however 5,000, 10,000 that are at the front of this stage. And then you're going to have to ask yourself, does this change live music as we know it?
From the Hot Pie Media Studios in Austin, Texas, it's the Jeff Ward Show. Listen at jeffwardshow.com.